Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Everyone's. It is 2:30. It's a little after 2:30, actually. And our next guest is with us. And I'm super stoked because this woman has a an eye for projects from a producer perspective, which is very close to my heart. As many of you know, I went to school, went to grad school to learn to be a producer, and I have spent the last 10, 20 years watching uh, producers, people who put projects together, find the funding, and really steer the ship to getting their projects done. And the person that we're going to talk to today is a creative. She's a writer, a director. She has a fine eye for talent, but she's also a businesswoman. She understands the business of entertainment, show business. And so she's a producer. She's a creative entrepreneur. She's a consultant of varying sorts. And really keyed in on a faction of television, a genre of television that, sure, it found its birth, like in the early 90s with the original Real World cast on MTV, but really took off, I'd say around 2009, 2010, with the writer's strike, where writers with the Writers Guild went on strike. Every once in a while, people are going to fight for, um, things like equal pay and quality treatment and all sorts of things. And so around that time, professional writers went on strike, and it kind of opened up this opportunity for content on television that did not require a script. Reality television as we know it today really kind of found its legs and flourished during that time period. And Kristen V. Carter is our guest. And when I tell you her her resume of reality television that she has either produced or been a story producer or have worked on in some capacity, you've watched it or experienced. You've watched The Real Housewives of Atlanta. You've watched Growing Up Hip Hop Atlanta. You've watched a number of shows that you can certainly Google her and find out. And she's going to tell us some about this today. But I'm so excited and so intrigued about Kristen V. Carter, the amazing roller skater. We'll talk about that in a second. Hey, Miss Carter.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. Thank you for being with us today.
So I
How
have
goes
a
it for
lot
you?
to share. I'm really, really excited. So let me know if you want to start with some questions. If not, then I've already prepared some notes to engage your students and also the folks that are on YouTube. So I'm really, really excited for sure.
Oh, wow. Look, we're not going to hold you back. I'm just going to jump out there first by asking you to introduce yourself in the way that you would like to be introduced. And tell the world who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, my name is Kristen V. Carter, as you all know, and I am a multi hyphenate. I am a writer, director, producer, and a development consultant, and also an entrepreneur. So I got my start in 2006 as the head writer for an entertainment news show entitled The Black Carpet, which was a show for BET. I also went on to write speeches for former BET CEO Deborah Lee, as well as a bunch of the executives for Viacom. From there, I went into music specials and award shows. So I'll explain a little bit about reality and unscripted because I've done a gamut of things. So I've done a lot of live BET awards, Black Girls Rock, Revolt, and also I've done a lot of series that you guys know of. So I've worked for a lot of series on OWN and Lifetime, Project Runway, America's Best Dance Crew. So when we say unscripted, I've done competition reality, I've done docuseries, I've also done live events and award shows, and I was a writer director for my own award-winning short film First Date. So I've done a number of things. Looking forward to share my experience and also take some questions. So yeah.
Yes. There is no shortage of I have done when it comes to your resume. I dig it. And look, y'all, if you follow Kristen's Instagram page, her IG, you will see that one of her favorite things to do is to roller skate. Now, I keep coming back to that because I haven't been on a pair of skates in a month of Sundays. Like, I probably was maybe 10 the last time I was on some wheels talking about roller skating. But you do it as frequently as possible, and with all the credits that you just listed, you probably need to wear them to go from soundstage to soundstage, studio to studio. Um, Tell us about your fascination with roller skating.
Sure. So when I was younger, I used to roller skate with my two best friends. And we used to spend the summers at Branchbrook Park and Skate 22. I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey. So at the time, we would just roller skate Friday nights and Saturday nights just for fun. If there were holidays, Memorial Day, and things like that, my mom would take us. And so I just thought it was a hobby I did when I was younger. So I hadn't put on skates for years. And so 2 years ago, right, 2018, I decided I wanted to pick up a hobby that had nothing to do with what I do full time. I wanted to have some friends outside of the industry. And one night I went roller skating and I felt like I was 10 years old all over again. And ever since, I'm there at least twice a week. I took lessons and everything for about a year. And so now I skate all the time. All the time. So I have my own roller skates. So right before you hit record on the YouTube, I was trying to move. There was like a red thing that you saw right peeking over here. I moved those over.
Yeah.
Those were my roller skates.
You ain't need to move them. You ain't need to move them. And look, the reason I bring it up before we go into your lectures, because I think, sometimes things like the hobbies that we have or the passions that we have that may live outside of the things we do,
Mhm.
kind of tells us a lot about a person. And, to my students, when you meet Miss Carter, you are meeting like the professional, the person who kind of holds herself and carries herself with this sort of this power and this polish. And when I first saw her roller skating on her Instagram page, I think I just I just wanted to know even more about you, because I thought, this is a full person. This isn't just what she does. Because when you look at all of the things, that makes up a person's resume, you kind of craft a picture of them, right? And you go, this is who this person is. And I think it wasn't until I saw you roller skating when I was like, that long list of fantastic credits is what she has done in her life. But there's so much more to this person, so much more dynamic creativity and flow and bounce and roll and all this stuff. And it just added to your wonder. And so thank you for sharing that with us. And it's inspired me to maybe go and get a lesson or two once the pandemic is over, and go down to the skate rink down the street.
Honestly,
How
it's
have
so
you?
much fun and it'll bring you back to when you were younger, because a lot of people I know, they used to skate when they were younger but haven't done it in years. Also, it's
Mm-mm.
cardio. It's like cardio in the club at one time. So I enjoy it because the music is always really good and it's always great people. And if you see, like when I go skating, if I'm working on a move and someone who is a vet sees that I'm working on a move, they'll come up and try to work with me. So you should have a good time. I suggest that you go.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm scared I might fall and break something, but I'm gonna give it a try.
You'll be
I'm gonna
just
give it a
fine.
try.
You'll be just fine.
How have you fared during the pandemic? How has it affected you as an individual, your well-being, your state of mind, and then yeah, how has it affected your work?
I appreciate you asking that. So, I've shared a couple of times with friends that I think I feel about six different emotions at once. So, I've been mourning for the friends of mine who have had loved ones pass in the last month. It's been really traumatic, I think, on the one hand, just in terms of what we're going through as a community. I'll say for myself as an individual, though, I've been really inspired. So I've been using this time to think about ways to connect with people. So I started a Facebook Live called Faith Over Finances. I do that every Thursday at 12 Pacific. And it's to talk about how to survive in the pandemic, because I had an experience during the recession that I call back to in terms of not being financially stable and not having the savings that I needed and all those things. So fast forward 10 and 11 years, I feel differently financially in this space, but I talk about that season a lot. So I have a Facebook Live called Faith Over Finances. I'm doing that. And I also have a couple of things in the works. So projects are still moving forward. Unfortunately, a lot of people have been furloughed, but because I work a lot in development and writing, I'm part of the pre-production process, and a lot of companies and networks want to be ready for whenever the world opens back up. So I'm still working. So I've been really grateful and thankful and blessed, but also very mindful about the people around me. So thank you for asking that.
Yeah, of course. It's so smart to just kind of, as they say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And it sounds like almost by default, by the nature of what you do, and everyone who's in pre-production, this is probably a good idea to have any sort of creative ideas ready to go for pitch, or any creative ideas that you may have been percolating for a while. This might be a good time to kind of revisit it and fine tune it, because as you say, once the world opens back up, or once we here in the States decide it's okay to resume our lives again, outside our homes, we may be watching this wealth of new content that came out of this period, right?
Well, not only that, I think it's a great opportunity to reset and recalibrate. So even some of the
Mm,
larger goals that I have for my life, I'm thinking, wow, I'm curious to know where my career will be after this, because I'm working on some things I'm not really ready to say just yet, but I've been doing a lot of Zoom informationals, and this is my first lecture per se, but I've been on video quite a bit, and it's really made me think seriously about the fact I love speaking. I love giving back to students. I've always wanted to do that a bit more. And so I think there'll be some people that come out of it with a different career, or writing a book and things like that. I really am excited for those people, but I also want to acknowledge and honor, is about recalibration and thinking about, well,
yeah.
what else can I give, what else can I do for my community, and all of those things. So
Mhm.
there's a bunch of emotions at the same time. And then also outside of that, just having like virtual game nights with friends and movie nights, and that's been really fun, looking for ways to communicate. Even doing this, it's cool to still be able to communicate with students and things like that over video. So I'm on video quite a bit every day, just
Yeah,
still
yeah.
communicating and connecting for sure.
Certainly our new normal is really to integrate this forum,
Right.
whether it's through Zoom or Facebook Live, or what have you. Instagram Live has also had a great boom. And
Oh, I
uh
love it. I'm so happy for D Nice. And I don't know if you're watching him, but he
mm,
literally went from 200,000 followers to 2 million because he's been entertaining us since this started with Club Quarantine.
yeah,
So I listen to him every day. It takes me back to when I was 11 and 12, listening to music when I would go to bed. So I
yeah,
love it. I love it.
yeah. We clean the house on Saturdays now to D Nice. He on the weekends he did his 90s flow. Was it Sunday? It was Sunday, and he played all music from the 90s, which that was my 20s. And I was having flashbacks all over the house.
Right.
And the one thing too that he did, and we'll get into your lecture in just a second, um, he would play the source material, the original song, and then play the song from the 90s that used that hook or that sample. And so there was like a great education in that. I had my granddaughter, my 12-year-old granddaughter. I was like, you got to stop whatever you're doing and you have to listen to this set, because what he's going to do, he's going to play a song from 1970 something, 1980 something, and then he's going to play the song from the 90s that used that song as a sample. And she was like, every couple songs, she's like, oh wait, that wasn't so and so's original song, or that song wasn't just made up for that particular artist. It was like, no, girl, and it
Mhm.
was it was a masterclass. It was wonderful. Yeah.
Right.
So
I love it. And he has such great energy. Just the other night, he was talking about some of his goals after this. And the thing that I love, he has such great energy. And I felt, wow, let me screen record what he's saying, because he's speaking over his life in terms of making Club Quarantine something that's an actual event afterwards. And I'm here
mhm.
for it. So it's not a typical just, I'm going to play a playlist and here's my Cash App. He doesn't do that. It's just, he has such a love for people. And I'm so inspired by what he's doing. So check out D Nice if you're not.
Yeah, I'm telling y'all, do go and support his page. Tune in. As Kristen said, he's on every day,
Mhm.
and it's a movement. It's a movement. At the end, Kristen, I want you to tell us more about your series on Facebook Live.
Sure.
While you're doing your lecture, I'm actually going to go to Facebook right quick and see if I can, grab your show so that after the Q&A, we can direct some people there as well. All right.
Sure. Well, I can also give everyone my Facebook page link. I have no problem with that. So you guys can also tune in on Thursday at 12 p.m., which would be 2 p.m. your time, CST. But definitely, I
Yeah.
am more than willing to talk about that as well.
Excellent. So I'm going to mute my mic and I'm going to turn it over to you. Teach us a thing.
Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored and excited. And I'm sure that some of you in here, the students, will be doing this same thing maybe 10 or 15 years from now, or even sooner. So I'm really grateful that I have this opportunity to share with you guys. And I'm also watching the chat. So if you happen to have any questions while I'm talking, please feel free to shoot over the message because I'm looking at the chat as well. So for today, I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you guys, and I created an acronym for Prairie View A&M University, so PVAMU. I just created some statements from there so that we could talk about how I have been moving through the industry and the ways that you guys can move through the industry. And then again, if you have any questions, please feel free to add them in the chat. And at some point, I may start unmiking people if folks have actual questions that they want to vocalize. So as I said, I got started in 2006. I was a head writer for an entertainment news show called The Black Carpet. I, I was able to land that opportunity after interning at BET for a summer right after I graduated from high school. And I connected with my mentor during that opportunity, during that internship opportunity. So I interned at BET, PBS, and also ABC during school. So I had the opportunity, which is very rare, to become a head writer at 21. And I say that before I get into the acronym, I say that because if you have a desire and a passion, it will lead you to where you want to go. I never thought that I would have that opportunity. When I graduated from Hofstra University, my professors were lovely and very, very gracious with information and just gave us a wealth of information, but they did say 9 times out of 10, we're going to get a job that's not going to pay us well. So I came out of school thinking, oh, am I going to land a job? Like, is there a space for me in this field? And there absolutely is a space for you. There absolutely was a space for me. And it was about following the things that I was really passionate about. So that leads me into my first point for today is pay attention to your passion. So for any of you that are interested in film or television, scripted, unscripted television, or anything else, really think about what makes your heart sing, what gives you joy. So for me, when I got started, I've always loved music. So a lot of people that I know that are in television or film, a lot of them have a long list of favorite films or shows. That actually wasn't me. I have a long list of music. I'm obsessed with New Jack Swing and 90s music. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm stuck in the 90s. And so I was that kid that would record music videos on VHS, and I used to write down the names of each of the artists. I also went to a boarding high school. So what I would do, I'm originally from Newark, but I went to a boarding school in Massachusetts. So I would record videos and bring them with me to school so that I could play music videos and basically stay up on culture while I was in school. So I was always really passionate about music. I also recorded radio shows, and my mom and my grandmother, I remember one day I had them listen to me in my living room just playing my radio show. But when I think about what I was passionate about through the years, what brought me joy, it was always music and dancing and things that I had done since I was younger. So if you can think about, and this is an exercise I'll give for homework. I'll try to remember all the homework that I give to you guys, but one piece of homework that I would give is think about what brings you joy and what are you passionate about. Even if you don't make money with it right now, it's just something that you love to do, whether it is Like I said, whether it's music or skating or cooking, any of those things, they may seem outside of film and television, but there's a way to bring those interests into what you're doing. So again, I started out in music programming. I still do music programming. It's actually my favorite, to be completely honest, out of all the genres that I do. I love writing and producing for award shows because just the energy of live performance and live entertainment always excites me. I love concerts. So I have the opportunity and the pleasure of incorporating my passion into everything that I do. So that's the first point. Pay attention to your passion. Again, the taglines I'm asking for: what makes your heart sing? What brings you joy? And what do you do in your free time? So second would be create value. And what I mean by that, so V is for value, so create value. What is it that you want to give to an organization, or what is something that you want to give to your community? And what I mean by that is a lot of people will say, oh, I want to direct, I want to produce, I want to write. Well, what do you want to write? What do you want to produce? What do you want to direct, and why? What do you want to give to your viewers? What do you want to give to your audience? How do you want them to feel? So for me, you'll hear this in my through line as I continue to talk about my experience. I have always wanted to give people joy. I've always wanted to give people energy and excitement, and also inspiration and encouragement. So 9 times out of 10, I am, well, not 9 times out of 10 all the time. I'm very choosy about the shows that I select to work on because I want them to be feel good shows. I want them to be able to stand the test of time. So Black Girls Rock is something that I'm really proud about because it inspires young girls to rock, young Black women that they can see themselves in the women that are being honored. And also, I had an opportunity to produce what's called Mad Girls, so Making a Difference girls. They were girls that were 18 and under who were all entrepreneurs doing amazing things. And so I had the opportunity to create those highlight packages. So I traveled all around the country to film in their hometowns, do an interview with them, and then their piece was about maybe 60 to 90 seconds long. So I was able to honor 3 girls in Black Girls Rock 2016. So I feel like the value that I bring to the table is that I like to create joy. I also, outside of just a feeling, in terms of value, what do you actually bring as a skill set? So for me as a writer producer, what I feel my value is that I write very quickly and efficiently. And I also have the passion to be able to articulate somebody's show. So for example, when I'm developing a show, 9 times out of 10, someone will give me a sentence. They'll say, I'm working on a show where one family is doing X. They'll tell me what the characters are doing, and I will be able to articulate that and create a one sheet or a series overview or different log lines of episodes. So I feel the value that I give from a skill set level is being able to hear something and be able to create a series from it. Now that takes time. You develop your value throughout the years of your career, but for each of you, really think about what you're passionate about doing, what you feel are your strong suits and your skills now. When I was your age, I was graduating from Hofstra. My senior thesis project was a show called Beat That, which was a live competition show. So I completely followed what I was doing in school. So I created a competition show where Hofstra talent had to perform. So I had a dance group there, I had a poet, I had a number of different artists on campus perform, and then someone won prize money at the end. And so in that experience, I didn't even realize I was developing my value in that point because I was taking what I love, music and dance and live performance and all of those things, and taking that and building a show. I had no idea that when I graduated, I was going to move right into an entertainment show or live shows. But I'm sure you're able to see that connection just in terms of what I was able to do in school and then what I do now. Okay, so I said our first point was pay attention to your passion. So that was P for passion, and then create value, so V for value. So for A, I have apply yourself. And what I mean by apply yourself, send that email, send that resume, send that scholarship application, send it, and apply yourself. I have realized that I've won a lot of competitions through the years and a lot of scholarship programs. I won't even necessarily say I'm always the best, but I will say I'm the one that steps forward and says, I'm here. So do not shelve yourself. If you want something, go out and apply for it. It doesn't matter what you think. I keep saying 9 times out of 10, but 9 times out of 10, so many people psych themselves out of opportunities before even going for it. And so if you have the inkling to reach out to someone and connect with them, or apply for an opportunity, or again, apply for a scholarship or a grant or a fellowship, do it. So in 2010, the recession was just ending. And I believe you all were youngsters at that point. I'm not that much older, but I believe there's a little bit of an age difference. So in 2009, 2010, we had a recession, and it was the very first time that I did not have employment. So just to track my career, 2006, I started as a head writer for The Black Carpet. I moved on to MTV to work on America's Best Dance Crew and a few other shows, Making the Band and a few other shows. And then everyone was home. My mentors were home. I was home. My peers were home. My friends were home. Everybody was at home. And it was the very first time that I thought that my dreams wouldn't come true. I had no plan outside of what I did full time. And so, but even in that, when I graduated from school, I had found out about a fellowship program at the University of Southern California. It's formerly the Cosby Fellowship Program. Now on my resume, it says the Guy Hanks and Marvin Miller Scholarship, because that's the official name. But at the time, people called it the Cosby Fellowship because the three of them had worked together to create it. And so I during that recession time, I wrote my first feature film and applied. It was something that had been on my mind for several years. And I said, when I finally have a screenplay, I'm going to apply to this program. And I applied in the fall of 2010, and I got accepted to the program for 2011. So I moved to LA at the top of 2011 because of that. And I say that to say that I could have psyched myself out. I could have said I'm not ready because I've only done one screenplay. I said, I have nothing to lose. It's been on my mind and my heart to do it. And so I submitted. And a lot of times you may win some, you may lose some, but it's all a part of the journey. And so I look to celebrate myself whenever I hit send. So apply yourself. If there's a job opportunity that you're looking for, be mindful also of what employers are thinking of. So going back to my first opportunity with the Black Carpet, I had just graduated from school. I didn't know anything about being a head writer, but when I had the opportunity to submit a writing sample, what I did was I submitted Beat That, my senior thesis project, along with, I was an entertainment news producer at school, so I submitted some writing samples from there, but I also went one step further. I watched Entertainment Tonight and also Extra. I watched those shows to me having a community. So my internship supervisor at BET is someone that I consider my mentor, and she is someone that I still consider a mentor, to be honest. I'm sure she would just say we're friends, but I consider her a mentor. But how I was able to attain the opportunity as head writer for Black Carpet was, her name is Joy Chin, and she's an executive at Real Housewives of Atlanta. So she's an executive now. At the time, she was a production manager for 106 and Park and Rap City, which were two really popular shows back before you guys were watching, I guess, music video shows, but those were our favorite shows back in the day. And so when I graduated from school, she asked me, what is it that you want to do? When I was interning with her, she was, like I said, in production management, which was about money and logistics. I wasn't as interested in that. I wanted to be the person that wrote what the hosts say. And I said to her, I'm really interested in learning what they do with award shows. Like, I don't even know, who do I talk to? And so she referred me to someone. Her name is Dara Cook. Hi, Dara. Hi, Joy. So she referred me to someone by the name of Dara Cook, and I kept in touch with her, and she's the person that connected me with the opportunity for the Black Carpet. And honestly, she trained me. So she taught me how to write for a weekly show, how to organize myself, and also submit scripts to our executive and to our hosts, and work on notes and things of that nature. And so those two people to this day are two people I will always thank, because they've been in my corner since I was 17 years old. So half my life and my entire career. And I have always kept those relationships. Now, a lot of people will want a mentor, but then won't do what it takes to keep a mentor. And what I mean by that is that those women and several other people since then have referred me to opportunities through my entire career, but I've also had to make do on that opportunity. And what I mean by that is make sure that you make the person who referred you look good. So many young people want opportunities, and then they get into the organization and then squander the opportunity, and then you make the person who referred you look bad. So really think about how to foster a relationship. If you say you want to do something and someone goes on the limb for you, make sure that you do well on that promise or on that relationship. And also I would say make sure that you reach out to people, not just for jobs. So as we talked about, I love to roller skate. I always invite my friends to go roller skating. A lot of the people that I work with are folks that I genuinely appreciate as people. I pretty much only work with people that I like. And I would say most times, especially in film and television, we're working 10 to 14 hours. You want to work with people that are fun. So try to figure out who those folks are in your community that you like and can create projects with. And then also in terms of mentoring, think about the people that you really admire. And when I say that, watch some television, watch some film, see who is doing the things that you're interested in doing. So when I got into my field, there were a few people who were producing a lot of shows. Back in the day, it was like MTV Rockumentary and all of those shows. And there were several names that I recognized through the years. And I was able to either research them and Google them and reach out to them, or I ended up working with them. And I was able to go up to them and say, wow, I really loved what you did on that show. That show inspired me. And that conversation opened the door for me to have a relationship with them. So really make sure that in mentoring and creating relationships, you're also doing the research so that you know who you're talking to, and also you're creating relationships on your own. There's something that I love that I subscribe to all the time. It's informational interviews. And so again, if there's someone that you really love and you feel that there's a connection, reach out to them and ask them for an informational interview. An informational is about a 20-minute session. It could be longer, where you ask someone about their journey. So you don't ask them for a job, but you ask them about their journey to find out how they got started and what their goals are and things like that. Those kinds of conversations have opened so many doors for me. And it's really because I am interested. I am always looking to create conversation and community and just know great people. And if I like something, I'm really going to try to find either who created it or who produced it or who wrote on it, so I can say, wow, that was great. And hopefully we can forge a relationship. So again, I would say M is for mentor / manifest relationships. And then my last point would be U, which is understand the landscape. And it's a continuation of what I said about mentoring and also manifesting relationships. When I say understand the landscape, really do the research about where you want to go. So again, I have produced and written for live events. I have written and produced for competition reality, docuseries. If we were to go through my resume, I could explain why I made the decision to be a part of that show. And 9 times out of 10, it was somebody, the executive producer or another person that I said, wow, I really want to work with them, or I feel that I can create value. I can build on this show and make it even more amazing than what it is. So for example, with America's Best Dance Crew, I am a dancer. I grew up dancing my entire life, and I loved the show just as a fan. And I said for years, I definitely want to work on that show, and continue to reach out, continue to watch the credits and see who can I connect with. And so as the journey would have it, I was able to connect with someone. In 2008, wrote a post show for them in New York. And then when I moved to LA, I was able to work on the series. It's my very first time being what's called a field producer. And a field producer is somebody who directs scenes in the field, they'll call. So or on set or on location rather. So with the crews, I would go to their hometown or their home area. I would film with them and create what's called a home story. So when you watch The Voice or any of these other competition shows, when you find out about the contestant, it's called a home package so that you can understand their stakes, what they're going through, why it's so important for them to be on the show, why they need to win the particular amount of money and things of that nature. And it really creates the emotion around why they're on the show. And so I had the pleasure of being able to do 2 home stories for America's Best Dance Crew. And then also both of my crews, well, not both, actually one of my crews made it all the way to the final. So I keep producing that group as they make it to the finals. And it was such an amazing experience. But I say all that to say that the reason and the way that I got on the show was I did the research. I was able to locate producers who worked on the show, and the producers I had worked with in 2008 remembered me when I moved to LA. A fun fact, I'll explain a little bit about my journey to LA. So slight sidebar. So after the recession, I told you I wrote my feature. I got a final interview to be a part of the fellowship program at USC. Simultaneously, I had been called by Wheel of Fortune. So on my bucket list was to be a contestant on Wheel of Fortune. Has nothing to do with my career, but everything to do with my career as I keep talking. So I was a contestant on Wheel of Fortune. This was December of 2010. And the day before I was leaving for Wheel of Fortune, the Cosby Fellowship called me and they said, we want to interview you. We want to do your final interview. But since you're in New Jersey, we'll do a phone interview. And I said, actually, I'll be in LA tomorrow. May I interview in person? And they said, sure. So I got off the flight. I interviewed at USC, and my interview was about almost an hour and a half. And I got out of that interview and I said to my mother, my life is getting ready to change. I don't know why I'm here, but it's not just for Wheel of Fortune. Something is happening. And I could just tell by the energy that something special was happening. And so I turned my phone back on, and a fellow writer, shout out to Adrian Dukes, who's a fellow writer, he had set up an informational for me at Rainforest Films, which has evolved into Will Packer Productions. So I had a meeting with someone at Rainforest Films, and she said, well, where are you? Do you live in LA? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be here. And I'm all excited. And so she said, well, let me know when you come back here. There might be something for you. And I said, okay, great. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Sorry, my computer was rocking. I got excited. So I left there, and then I met with an associate of mine at now my favorite cafe. It's called Aroma. And we sat down, and she said, you know, I'm looking to sublet one of the rooms in my apartment. Are you interested? Are you definitely moving here? And I said, yes. So within 3 days, I was able to land a fellowship, a job in an apartment. And I say that story because I didn't know that that was what was up for my life. I had always wanted to move to LA. I'd always wanted to expand my career and different things. But it happened in that moment. And so I got home, and my mom asked me, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm gonna move. I'm gonna try it. And so before there was Kickstarter or GoFundMe, I put together a letter for friends and family. I explained the situation, that what I did not win in money on Wheel of Fortune, I won an opportunity. And a few people donated to me. I didn't make it a big public thing, but my pastor read my letter to our congregation the day before I was leaving. And I thought he was just gonna do an altar prayer, and he actually did a collection. And I was able to live off of that money for 2 months. And so again, I say that if you've been tracking since the recession, I said I had no savings. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I had done, I had substitute taught and different things in 2010, and I worked on another show. By that point, TV was coming back up. But in 2011, my life really changed, and it changed my faith. I'd always been a really faithful person, I thought, but that was not me. And that was all God, and that was all the universe in terms of aligning my steps to move to LA. So when I moved to LA, I wanted to make sure to do well on the promise. So many people had donated to me. So I wanted to make sure that I made good on the money that they had given to me. And so in 2011, that's when I worked on America's Best Dance Crew. The people that I had worked with in 2008 on the post show of the show, and also on Making the Band, the creators of Making the Band said, Kristen, if you ever move to LA, we'll have a job for you. And I keep saying 9 times out of 10, I need to stop that. But, but they said, if you move to LA, we'll have a job for you. And so many people sell wolf tickets, and you'll learn that in your own experience in life. Folks will say a lot and not make good on what they say, but those two people did. So Ted Iredell and Perry Dance, those are their names. They helped Diddy create Making the Band, I believe. So let me not get that wrong, but they were EPs for that show. And so when they created a new show for Diddy's choreographer, Lorianne Gibson, I worked on that show. When I moved here, I was a story editor for that show. So I moved from being a writer and also an associate producer. I learned how to be an associate producer. I moved into what's called story editing. So I was now editing scenes for a docuseries. It was a docuseries, it was a dance docuseries. And I was working on what's called Avid. I don't know what system you all are working on, if it's Avid or Final Cut or Premiere, but that was my first opportunity. And so again, they knew that I had never worked professionally as a story editor. I had cut different things in school, but they said, just come an hour early your first day. We'll show you what buttons you need to push. And not minimizing what story editors do, but I'm actually maximizing that when you step into an opportunity and an opportunity is for you, whether you have the experience or not, when you get in the door, you will learn, you'll figure it out. So I came in, I wrote down all the notes that I needed to have, and I was a story editor. And that particular year, I did Born to Dance and then America's Best Dance Crew. And while I was on America's Best Dance Crew, I was directing, it was the first time I was directing scenes. And my segment producer, who was also my videographer, shout out to Jake Burke, if you're watching, he was shooting and I said, Jake, I really want to direct my first narrative short film. We're doing so many things directing that I know that I can do a short film. So I wrote and directed my first short film. It traveled the country for 1.5 years. It was award-winning. I created a workshop series around it to different people. And I'm telling you the journey because everything is not linear. So like, I think of life like the yellow brick road. So you walk, you walk, you walk, you meet a friend. You walk, you walk, you walk, you meet another friend. Then you have adversity together. You try to figure it out. Then you walk and walk and walk, and you meet someone else. And that's really how I view life. There's so many things that I have put on my vision board that have continued to come to life. I don't know when they're going to happen, but I know that they will happen. And so I'd love to take some questions because I could go on and just continue to explain, but trust in your magic and trust in who you are and trust in your light. And if there's anything that you're interested in, write it down and make it plain because those things will come to pass. So I had mentioned that I wasn't going to say what I'm working on, but I'm working on a book right now. And I've wanted to work on a book for several years. It's something that's been on my goal sheet for a while. But as I've continued to do Zooms and instructionals, I'm really passionate about this. And I said, there's something here for me to explore. I'm on Zoom like 3 times a week now, talking just about
9 times out of 10, you on Zoom?
Right, yes. And so really thinking about my passion and where I feel I create value is in exploring these topics and exploring how to create income with your passion and all of those things. So anyway, I'd love to take some questions, but I'll just sort of segue back for PVAMU. So pay attention to your passion. So P is for passion, create value. V is for value. A is for apply yourself. M is for find mentor or manifest relationships. And then U is understanding the landscape. And then my bonus would be trust your magic and trust the journey. I'm an entrepreneur as well. So I have a company called Trust Your Magic, and that came out of a dream that I had in terms of I needed to hear that affirmation and I wanted to give it to other people. So I have a workshop series around that, around becoming a 6-figure freelancer. And I created that because it's something I did. And so through the years, I had never had a savings account until 2015, and really started to become really financially savvy and really learn how to have work-life balance. And so I wanted to be able to give that to other freelancers. There's staff and there's freelance. I've been a freelancer or an independent contractor my entire career. Outside of the recession, I have never had a long stint of unemployment. And so there's something to that. And so if you can figure out things that you're passionate about and that you feel you have experience in that you can share with other people, please do, because we all need the inspiration. So there you have it. So
there you have it. She said, and look, she just finished it like, and voila, that's it. We have so much from that. First of all, thank you for the acronym. That is just amazing. I wrote it down. I was over here furiously taking notes. I know our students were. Why don't you all go ahead and open up your mics and your cameras and ask Ms. Carter your questions.
Can you talk a little bit more about your company, please?
I'm sorry, could you repeat yourself one more time?
Yes, ma'am. Can you talk a little bit more about your company, please? I would really like to know.
Sure. So I have a few. So I will talk about the one that I just mentioned, and then I'll mention the other one. So I created Trust Your Magic in 2016. And at the time, it was a merchandise company. So I sold shirts. I actually have the shirt on, but I don't think it's, I don't know if you can even see the whole thing. I'll get up later. But I sell shirts, I sell mugs, and also notebooks. And it's about stepping into your gifts and talents, trusting who you are, trusting your innate abilities. And so at the time, it was a reminder for people. So I knew that I wanted it to be more than merchandise. I always knew I wanted it to be a workshop series and eventually be a touring series. So I'm in the midst of creating that. Like, this quarantine is like pushing me to create the tour. So I have a workshop series around being a six-figure freelancer, and we take a look at value. Please excuse the garbage trucks outside. I really hope you're not picking up all that loud noise.
Oh yeah, we are.
Okay,
That's okay.
I'm sorry. I did not. My windows are closed, but we're all at home. So I created a workshop series around being a six-figure freelancer. So we take a look at one, acknowledging the wins that we have in our careers, because I think that's important. So I do an exercise around that. And then I do an exercise around really pinpointing what you feel you bring to the table. So when I mention create value, I do quite a few exercises with clients and also friends of mine about what do you bring to the table? What is special about you? And it's not always packaged. So it was interesting. I was having a conversation, not even about television. I was making a conversation about Michael Jackson. And I said, you can't choreograph soul. So there's certain performances that he does where I just weep because I'm like, this is amazing. This is amazing. And so when I say that, a lot of times I think that we think we have to package ourselves just perfectly. It's really, be professional, but be who you are. And so that's something I'm also getting, even with doing these Zooms. In my 20s, I think I was way more buttoned up. I was, I used to stay up all night writing scripts and all that stuff. I tell people now I don't work after 8. But I mean, I've been in the business a few years. So now I can say I've been in the business 15 years. And at this point, I'm like, no, I need a break. I'll actually say when I need a break. But when I got into the game, I was, and I still am, but I was very passionate and always, I always thought about how can I establish myself and differentiate myself from the rest of the young people who are coming up. So I know that was long-winded, but trustyourmagic.com I have, and then KristenVCarter.com if you want to take a look. And then the other company I had mentioned, I have an LLC called Jazzy Dreamer Entertainment, and that essentially is my production work outside of working on series. So if I'm developing projects and things like that, I do it under my LLC.
And all these businesses are 6 figures?
No, not all of them, but my business in terms of being in terms of being a freelancer, I'm a 6-figure freelancer. But in terms of like Trust Your Magic, I'm still building that business. But I talk about my freelance business inside Trust Your Magic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with T. Hayes. I tell you what, he gonna break through, y'all. This young man right here, Every time I turn around, he got a question and he just tickle me every time. Anyone, anyone else have a question for Ms. Carter? I think everyone's kind of like shell shocked in a sense because
Well,
of the
please don't be,
volume.
because we don't, you, if you have a question, I say, please ask her if you have a statement, because a lot of times we don't
Yeah.
have the opportunity to engage. And I'm really excited to engage, particularly with the fact that, all of the students haven't graduated. And so I remember how I felt when I was a graduate, is why I talk so much about when I was first getting out of school, because at the time I didn't know that what I wanted was possible. And so becoming a head writer at 21 was like, oh, wow, okay. I was younger than everyone. And when my first day, one of my producers said, don't tell anybody your age, and that was a big deal at the time. I was the youngest, maybe until I was 28. And even now, now most people just assume I'm much younger than I am. But yeah, I would just say, you got to go out there and do it, and ask the questions, and be resilient, and just show your passion and things like that.
Yeah. One of my colleagues, Tony Clomax, whom I think you actually know.
Yes.
Yeah. He asked the question in the chat, talk about your how you combat fear and doubt.
Okay. That's a great question. Well, how I combat fear and doubt, two things. One is to be in action. So I feel like when I'm in action, it forces me to fight through fear. So even right this second, there's a show that I need to pitch. And because we're quarantined, we just need to send it electronically. And I'm like, I don't want to hit send. I'm kind of grappling with that. So
yeah,
I've had to learn to just remain in action when I feel like I'm afraid of something, and also fully address it for myself. Because a lot of times we will not say the truth, will not tell the truth to ourselves in terms of saying, oh, I'm afraid of this. So if I'm afraid of this, it means I need to run towards it. If you're afraid, that actually means you care, and just keep running towards it. And then I would say my second thing, the way that I combat fear and doubt, is to be in joy. I talk about joy a lot. So even roller skating, I do that to clear my mind, actually. So I do really fun things. I go walking or I go running. I'm active in that way so that I can work through different thought patterns and think about ways that I can re-strategize and just, quite frankly, like cut it out and just move forward.
Yeah. Wow. Kristen, thank you so much for your time today. We actually have to wrap things up because our next speaker is on standby. I know our next speaker is kind of in the wings, as we have to kind of, do a bit of a setup and all sorts of things to get ready for that. But before we go, I do want to share, I'm going to do a screen share to promote your to promote your talk, your live feed on Facebook.
Let's
see.
I thought you were going to pick my flyer, my beautiful, glorious marathon flyer, not actually a clip from it.
You know what? Let me see. I can actually
talk about it. You can.
Yeah. Tell us about Faith Over Finances.
Sure. So Faith Over Finances is a Facebook Live series that I started in response to what's going on with the quarantine. So 2 days before the national emergency was declared, a couple of friends of mine had called me really upset, and they said, Kristen, one, I lost my job, but then two, you told me that something was going to happen in 2020 with finances. And I said, well, yeah, if you pay attention to 2016 to 2019, quite a few people did very well. 2019 was my strongest year personally and professionally on both sides. My career as a television writer, producer, and also as a speaker, I did really well last year. And I said, not to jinx anybody, but typically when there's a really strong, like you've hit a peak, there's something coming. And so I just was preparing myself for what may come. And so what I mean is I had made the decision that I was not going to shoot another film, that I was going to save money. So I was saving a bunch of money last year. in preparation for something. Now, I didn't think it was going to be this, but I did think that the economic climate would shift in some way. And so faith over finances, I wanted to really cut through a lot of the fear, because when I don't even watch CNN. My television hasn't been on, besides watching the Clark sisters on Saturday, my television hasn't been on, which was amazing. So I created that to have a conversation with friends and loved ones and colleagues around how to strategize. So if we're losing our jobs, what are the ways that we can still make money outside of what we were doing? So for example, I write resumes and I consult people, and I do that as a quote unquote side hustle. But essentially, whenever I'm between shows, I write a ton of resumes, and it's because there's a need for them. So it's really, again, when we go back to creating value, thinking about how you can create value for the people around you, create something that people need. So pay attention to what's going on around us. So for the college students, I would say our babies, like our young people, if you want to create some sort of tutoring program for the summer, whenever we're in the world again, but if you want to create some sort of tutoring program, I tutored. That was my first business when I was 14. I created a tutoring and mentoring program, and I would go to a couple of houses and tutor 5th and 6th graders or 3rd and 4th graders. But I always thought about ways that I could create value and I could utilize my skill sets. So again, faith over finances is another way for us to look at like how we can combat what's going on and still make some money and also still remain faithful. So this week's session on Thursday will be a little bit more about exercising and finding our gifts and whatnot. So every week is a different topic.
Awesome. You know what? We're going to share the link and everything for Faith Over Finances on the PVAMU TV website as well, so that we can, let our students know that this is another resource for them, as well as put it in the description for the videos for the series. I've decided today, I woke up with this thought to put together a syllabus for this series, where it's going to be a PDF, and on each page, the header will be the digital flyer that we use for each of the speakers, and a one-sheeter of the books that you would recommend, the resources you would recommend for our students. And I would love to incorporate into that syllabus the PVAMU acronym that you developed, so that the students can have that in that PDF, in that syllabus, as a takeaway. It just left me so full, and I know it's going to be so valuable to our students. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. And I'll just say, if anyone has any questions, my email is kristenvcarter@gmail.com. So that's KRISTEN, V as in Victor, CARTER @gmail.com. And you can find me on kristenvcarter.com as well if you just want to check out the website. But I'm always happy to answer questions. Really excited about you guys going forth and using your gifts and talents, and be great, be excellent, continue to ask questions with people, and also do the work. So that's it.
Man, if I had my tambourine and my triangle, I would just play it and ting it right now, because you've just given us the goods. All right, y'all, come back at 4:00. 4:00, we have Erica Ringor, the Sindra O'Neill from Love and Basketball. She's going to talk about her acting career, especially in television, focusing and since this week is our television week, last week we did so much more in film, with all of our guests talking about their journey in film. This week we have our journalists, and we're our reporters, and our creative entrepreneurs, producers in television. And so come back at 4:00, and we're gonna wrap a bit with Erica Ringor. Kristen, I love you. Thank you so much. You've just been wonderful. Appreciate y'all. All right.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right. Thank you.